call this meeting to order. We'll take a roll call of the committee members. Bob Hassinger.
I'm here.
Alan Baker.
I'm here.
And Bob Carroll.
Oops, I'm muted. Sorry. Bob Carroll's here.
And Dave Robbins is here. Alan Baker. Yeah, Amar Clark is the only member of the committee that's not currently present. I don't know offhand whether we'll be expecting Evan to join us. But as always, our first agenda item is public comment. If there is any, we do not have any public attendees on Zoom. And unless one of us has something to contribute that qualifies as public comment, we'll move into our main agenda item for this evening, which is an update with our Charlie and company, our IT contractors. So it's all yours, Charlie.
All right. Well, we've been hard at work just managing the day-to-day activities of the network. Mark is going to give you a little bit more detailed information on the Microsoft 365 deployment, which has finally taken shape and is rapidly coming to a conclusion. In a nutshell, we ended up moving them to a GCC tenant for both police and the town. We split the police out of the town tenant so that it's out on its own. And, it took us a bit to get that aspect of it squared away. And then we had a lot of trouble getting Microsoft to approve the GCC tenant for the town. I don't know what took so long, but it seemed to take months to get them to finalize all that. Right now we're just down, there's a handful of stragglers that we're waiting on to wrap up some distribution groups and finalize some MFA stuff. But beyond that, they're running on 365. Pretty much everybody's running on MFA, with the exception of some people in the library, which Mark can speak to more, but became quite a debacle with union requirements and negotiations, which I would also point you to Evan on, because we weren't really privy to that part of it, except that they were upset because they would have to use personal cell phones for MFA. So the workaround there was simply that those that chose not to do Authenticator can't access the library email outside of the local network. We're just going to disable external email for them because they won't do MFA.
Can I ask you a quick question on that real quick? So so basically the MFA is being rolled out as requiring the Microsoft Authenticator app itself for the MFA authentication, and so these it sounds like they didn't want to have that app on their personal cell phones due to the various union reasons, and as such they were not going to be able to use that for authentication. Was there any investigation or looking into using something else like YubiKeys or some other kind of token approach to providing MFA for the users that that did not have the ability to use the Authenticator app themselves on the cell phone?
Yeah, or like questions or text message, other factors.
I'll answer that. So definitely that. So no, they did not want text messages. They did not want any other type of anything that would use their cell phone itself. We could even do a phone call, but it was agreed upon that they could not put anything on their personal computer or their personal phone, anything, even a text message or a phone call. It was agreed upon for now to just allow access only from a separate IP address, which would be just the internal LAN of the actual library. At some point, yes, we're going to be looking at some type of smart card or something for them to kind of get around that situation. But just to kind of push this project along, and there's only about, I don't know, maybe a dozen users, and we felt the risk for those users were relatively small because they were more just part-time staff and things like that. Some of the other managers and stuff there were okay with putting the authenticator on, but we'll definitely be looking at some other third-party options that we could just hand out a UV key or something like that definitely in the future. But just,
And-
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and are you enforcing number matching
Yeah.
or you're okay?
Yes, all the default security defaults we're doing, they have P1 licenses so they can do conditional access. So we have lots of different things for triggering based on, and we're blocking obviously geo blocking and all those different things. So you can't log in from certain areas. We're enforcing number locking so everyone just doesn't hit approve every time. Right, because that was an issue. That's why they put out the number. So you actually type in the number because people were just so used to the authenticator, they were hitting approve every time and probably faking some stuff. So
Yeah, there's
that's
been a lot of
enabled.
MFA. There's been a lot of MFA phishing that's occurred with that, and so number matching has kind of been the way go to for that. And so that one of the questions that like actually Bob had asked about text messaging, and one of the questions I was going to ask is, is text messaging enabled for this anywhere, or since you have number matching, do you not have that enabled? Because I know personally speaking
Yeah.
that having text messages as a possibility gives a path for someone who could be a malicious actor to bypass your number matching and then get back around that in order to circumvent your MFA security.
Yeah, we're not even giving them the option.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only option that comes up is that because we're using the new Microsoft security defaults kind of idea where it's just number matching. So it's a lot better.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
We've all, what else have we been working on, Mark?
So, I can expand a little more. Yeah, as Charlie was saying, it was a two-phased approach to the Office 365. We did the police department first, and because of CGIS, we wanted to separate the tenants because in the previous setup, it was one Gmail tenant for both the police department and the town. And that kind of brought up some issues where if the police department is managing Gmail, they have access to the town and vice versa. So we kind of wanted to just clean that up just for compliance reasons. So we kind of split that up in two separate GCC tenants. We are forcing obviously for police department, 2-factor with number matching by default, and also for the town other than, the library like we talked about. So those are two major things. We've deployed Azure multi-factor also with the VPN. We've been turning that on, and that's the backend plumbing is done. We're still pushing it out user by user, but that's also getting done to make sure we're 2-factor for the VPN users. So those are the major things we've been working on for the town, just to kind of get their security up and running with the Office 365, make sure it's really secure, make sure they're on 2-factor, and make sure all the litigation hold and all of those policies are in place. We've enabled Microsoft Defender ATP for email and phishing. We've enabled a lot of different features inside Microsoft 365 to try to policy tips, for example. So if someone's sending something in from a user, and let's say I send something to Evan, but it's Mark Jardim at yahoo.com, it'll pop up saying, this isn't the same Mark Jardim that usually emails Evan. Some policy stuff to kind of help educate the user and make them make informed decisions. So we've been making progress with that stuff on the Office 365, taking us a little longer than we wanted, but we're there now actually. And we have some more projects coming up that we want to work with Evan on in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, I think this is in connection with the 365, but we've been having some difficulty with some email lists. I've got like 3 different committees I've got email lists for, and they're just not working well. In some case, I sent one out to a list today and no one got it.
Which list was that?
That was the Open Space and Recreation Committee, OSR committee.
Okay.
We've got a mailing list for the Bylaw Study Committee, which has been sort of working sporadically. We've been getting some odd bounces back from some people trying to send to the list. And I think the IT committee list has been working, but I'm not even sure about that. And it's just.
Did you receive an email from me today?
I got your
I didn't send it via the list. I just sent a reply. You had individuals on there. Never mind. That my bad.
right. Yeah, I think I sent out the email I sent out to the committee. I just sent out to the individual members because I was uncertain whether the mailing list was working. So as far as I know I communicated that to William last week that we were having trouble with mailing lists, and he said that they were working on it. I don't know what the status of that is.
Yeah, we're definitely going through some of them. there's probably about 200 email accounts or mailboxes being migrated and probably about 50 lists. So there were a few lists that had incorrect or they didn't come over correctly, whatever, when we pulled the filter out. There's issues, for example, like you have the chief of police. Apparently they also had, instead of having chief at, Grafton Police Department, they also had a town of Grafton email account. So there were some clarifications we need to work on. So we're kind of working through those. As of today, I'm pretty sure, I'm not aware of any lists that aren't working, but we're still meeting with, for example, I met with Beth yesterday from the library. We're meeting with all the heads, and Jonathan will be there tomorrow to kind of keep working with all the heads of all the departments to make sure all the lists are up to date.
Yeah, so I think what I'll try to do tomorrow is I'll sort of send out a test email to each one of my lists and independently send out to all the recipients asking them to confirm whether they're getting email through the list. But
Yeah.
as of this afternoon, I know the OSR committee list no one was receiving it.
Okay, I'll double check that after this call today. And any feedback would be greatly appreciated, 100%. Yeah, we do have a list from the old Gmail that we kind of went by, but there is something, sometimes there's issues, so definitely love the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know if it's not working, and no one tells you it's not working.
Exactly. So,
As far as where we're going, we've looked at the number of servers that might have 2012 R2 on them, and I think, Mark, you said we were down to 2, which were strictly related to the Honeywell.
yeah,
And as you know, we've got the October deadline for end of support for that coming up, and we'll need to figure out just what we're going to do with that. Evan, I know you and Will were looking at the Honeywell issue, and we can give you a call.
yeah, we've somewhat isolated some of those servers from the network, but there are 2 Honeywell servers that were used, and those are older servers that we have to at some point look at upgrading. The problem is we just can't upgrade those servers. We have to upgrade some of the whole systems because the controllers and everything, they all need newer. We have to upgrade not the software, but the actual controllers. So it's a big project. It's just not upgrading the actual servers, but we've taken internet off some of those. We've VLANed them a little bit, and we're trying to tighten those down. And hopefully we'll have that done at some point once Will and Evan work with the vendor directly on that. But that's a whole separate project. Other than that, most of the other servers are 2019 or 2016, so they're all supported. We do have projects with Evan we're working on looking at replacing some of the physical servers, but the actual virtual machines are running all supported versions of Windows.
What do those Honeywell servers do?
So, yeah, go ahead.
They run the HVAC system for the municipal center. So I think it's just about 10 years ago, the town undertook like a $3 million retrofit of the building. And they put in Honeywell. So this basically controls all the ERVs and the VRVs and stuff that are in the different rooms. Calling for heat, calling for cooling, whatever needs to happen. So
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I did the same. I did the same approach for those type of devices. They oftentimes end up being very, very infrequently patched. Oftentimes have vulnerabilities and usually are way past their prime as far as support goes. And so I've done the same thing where you just isolate those to reduce the risk, to mitigate the risk to the rest of the environment from that. It's a tough thing to replace that stuff since there's such a huge investment in the stuff that it manages.
Yeah, they're all, those 2 servers we're talking about are all internally not accessible through the firewall. So if someone's on your network already, it's kind of bigger issues. How are they on your local network? But we want to kind of tighten it down as much as possible. And when we've done what we can, we put, for example, we put a capture client, Sentinel-1, on those devices, just like we have for every other device. The whole organization now has Sentinel-1 and capture client, which is SonicWall's front end for that on every device, excuse me, in the organization, which is a good situation they have right now.
As far as the servers go, the next thing we're gonna talk with Evan about is, upgrading that core server and possibly moving the current server over to the fire department and then replacing that hardware when that's feasible.
Yeah, their current server, I believe, is a 930, a Dell, so it's a very robust server, but it's older now and it's not under support by Dell anymore. So our next plan with Evan is work on replacing that server and then moving that server offsite to be like a replica server.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anything else? Any other
Those
questions?
those are the heavy lifts that we've been working on.
Yep.
The switches are solid switches. They're getting a little bit older, but I think they still have some life left in them. We're keeping up on all the patching and the management of things. We'll want to talk about doing a little bit of training coming up, and we're due to have an annual review. How you feeling, Evan?
I'm doing a little bit better. Took me
Oh,
a
yeah.
little while to bounce back.
Yeah.
So I can move around now, which is good. But yeah, we're getting there. Not 100%, but probably 85, 90%.
Yeah.
So we'll be rescheduling that meeting here in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
As soon as you're ready.
So the last thing, just to let you guys know, is one of the issues we found when we took this over was that the Ubiquiti Cloud Controller was just running on an old utility server for the software wise. So we've taken that, we put that action on a piece of hardware, an actual device that kind of manages all the Wi-Fi to make it a little more robust solution, because we found it was running on a Windows box as a Java application. So that was causing some wireless issues. So we basically moved that off to an actual device that manages the Wi-Fi, physical device. And that's improved Wi-Fi performance. We've also tweaked some of the Ubiquiti Wi-Fi access points in the organization, because they were all just set for automatic, right? So some of the signals were crossing over each other, causing issues. We've kind of dialed that in, so it's a lot better performance. And when you're in an office outside the hallway, you're not connecting to the access point, 100 feet down, you're connecting to one over the top of you. So I've been working with Jonathan to kind of streamline that, test that, and we've gotten good results with that. So that's basically it. Any questions?
Bob Hassinger?
If there aren't any questions, you may have already heard about this, or you'll hear about it probably from Evan. But I've been around the edges of a project that's looking to put public Wi-Fi in the parks.
Yes.
Okay, you're aware of that.
I heard a little bit, but you could definitely tell me more. I heard a little bit from Jonathan, and he came to me asking some questions about some recommendations. I gave him some ideas, but give me whatever information, more information, the better.
Well,
So, yeah.
We've got Comtract looking at, they're the ones that service our fiber and build and service our fiber, and they've been surveying and coming around with bids and whatnot. I'm not sure where the choice of the hardware will, other than the fiber.
Of course.
I don't know where you folks will be, but I'm pretty confident that that's not a major challenge to make work.
No, once you have a topology in mind, if we could get a drawing or a print of where you want to cover, we can help you guys make some decisions on what you want to do. Since you're already kind of embedded in Ubiquiti for the town hall, might make sense to stay along the Ubiquiti line, and they do have a number of really good outdoor units that are very reasonably priced.
We are already connected to appropriate structures in the two parks, in South Grafton and at the Common, and this got stirred up because there's a project being looked into to upgrade a park in North Grafton, Whitney Park, and the current thinking, I think, putting the Wi-Fi, the antenna and whatnot on the fire station, which is at one corner of that park. And they're still looking around it. But what about, there's another park just beyond that might get covered from there, or might not get covered, or might get covered by running a line around. And that'll be a while, I think.
We've done some work with Ubiquity Air Fibers, which are pretty fantastic units. And you know, you might look at something like that as a bridge, or
Yeah, well,
I'd have to know more about the distances and things like that.
I'll let somebody who knows all the gear pass that on. Do you know Comtract? They seem to do a fair amount of fiber. Okay.
We haven't dealt with them directly. I haven't run into them out here.
At some point, I think Evan might get you and them talking. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't-
Anything else
I don't know that
anybody
we're-
has for,
I don't think we're there yet as far as even knowing, you know, the specifics of the project and where we're gonna end up. So, we're still in the exploratory phase of that.
Okay. All right. When you're ready, just give us.
Whenever you're ready, let us know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, I think everything's been running pretty smoothly.
that's good to hear. And yeah, the 365 migration seems to have been a pretty substantial project, but we're at least close to being all wrapped up on it, sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Right, anybody else have anything for CMD here?
I appreciate the update and stuff. It sounds like finally got things rolling with Microsoft. So sounds like you guys were able to get that moving.
Yeah. Evan, do you have anything you need?
No, I really don't. I think you covered all of the high stuff. You know, the rest of it is just day-to-day management type stuff.
Yeah, down in the weeds.
Yeah, you know, we're all dealing with on a pretty consistent basis with each other. So
Well, in that case, thank you, Charlie and Mark, for taking the time to meet with us, and we appreciate the update and hope things continue to go smoothly. I will follow up on the question about the email lists, but
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time and the invitation, and happy to come back anytime you'd like us.
all right, well,
Good to
Hope
see
to
you all
touch-
again.
hope to
Bob, good
touch
to see
base with
you.
you again soon. Maybe probably not next month. That would be a little absurd, but you know, maybe 3 to 6 months from now, something like that, whenever it seems appropriate. But
Sounds
Be
great.
happy.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Evan, I'll talk to you soon.
all right,
Take care,
thanks,
everyone. Thank you for
See you guys
everything.
later.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
And Evan, so the next agenda item is town administrator update. If you have anything for us beyond what Charlie and Mark have talked about.
Not really. The only technological project that we have going on that's not related to what CMD just gave you an update is we're actually looking at new mapping software that'll tie into MapGeo. And so that's pretty interesting technology, but it's pretty much cloud-based and all the data already exists. We're just getting access to a database. So, but it is pretty awesome because it's 3-inch resolution. So it's very accurate. And so you can use it for measurement. It also does, it's another product called Pushpin, and Pushpin looks at different mapping imagery and then uses an algorithm to tell you what's changed between one picture and the other picture. So it'll be really good and handy for wetlands tracking, as well as buildings and sheds and all the rest of the stuff that happens that, you know, you need for assessing purposes. So we're pretty excited about that. That'll be a new addition. And then once a year that data will be added to our MapGeo GIS layer, so that we'll have both Google Earth imagery and then our own MapGeo imagery. So
When did you say that? When did you say that would be? Or how long?
hopefully within a month or two. So
Yeah. But then do they stay synchronized?
no, so there's two different products. So MapGeo will be available for different departments and staff that we can access. They'll have new data every March and July. So you get one pass where there is no foliage and one pass where there is foliage. And then once a year, the MapGeo layer gets updated. So because it's $1,000 every time you do that. And that's because of MapGeo's interface, not this other company's interface. MapGeo can only be, the layer can only be updated if you make a physical copy and then upload it that way. So there's no way to constantly, you know, every time we do a new layer, we can't just push it up into the cloud.
Yeah, I use the, you know, the web interface to the MapGeo a lot to see what's going on, and I might have just asked questions about something fairly precise. And often there's a question about whether what's online is current and correct.
Yep.
And sometimes it seems like it's been a long time.
Right. So we think that while annually is not super fast, it's oftentimes faster than waiting for the Google data to change. And we also will get rid of those phase overs where you're looking at a parcel and half of the parcel is in spring and half of the parcel is in fall. That this would go away. And so that will be, we think, helpful. It's just another layer that's a tool. You know, quite frequently when I'm using MapGeo, I am clicking, you know, the 2020 data and then looking at that, then turning that off and then turning on the 2021 data and comparing back and forth. The neat thing about this company called Nearmap is we can actually look at an address, tell it the other date we want it to look at, and then it puts the two of them side by side. So you have a live comparison right in front of you. It's really cool stuff. So we're excited to have access to that data and you know, see the different ways that can help out. And I think that's going to be mostly beneficial for you know, DPW, my office, building, assessing, planning, conservation, you know, those types of areas. So but I was able to play with it on Monday, and it is really cool technology. So
This is basically the photographic data, you know,
correct.
satellite images or whatever. Presumably it's either satellite or aerial, but
Yeah, these are
and having access to how the imagery changes over time is the value, seems to be the value here.
exactly. And so they're aerial images. They're higher resolution than the sat images that we already have. They also give us basically 360-degree oblique images as well, which is very helpful when you're doing you know, some housing related stuff, but also your conservation erosion data. You know, you can look at some of these things and actually measure them on the screen to within 8 inches. And then, you know what you're looking at before you even go try to get there by you know, in person. So it is pretty neat. It's going to be a really nice addition for us. And, you know, I think also for the residents that are using MapGeo. So it'll be another tool.
So besides that, I know we've got town meeting clickers
Oh, thank you, Dave.
in progress at some point.
Yes, so we did select a vendor. vendor's called Meridia or Meridia. And so that group consisted of myself, William Blake, our assistant, and also Dave Robbins, who's here right now, and Don Anderson, our moderator. And so we looked at, we requested demos from 3 companies, only 2 responded. We did demos with 2 companies, virtual demos, and ultimately settled on Meridian. One of the big selling features is that that particular clicker system is not PowerPoint dependent or based. And so it gives us a lot more flexibility and also a lot, in my opinion, it's a lot more reactive. So when someone makes a substitute motion or a amendment, we can do that on the fly very easily. We are going to be ordering, we already put in the quasi order. We have to wait for the sales order to show up, but we are getting 500 clickers. They are numbered in such a way that some of the other towns that we interact with, we would be able to borrow from their clicker pool and have it just work right with our system rather than us having to buy, another 200 clickers or 150 clickers. We have, in that order, we have some clickers for the visually impaired that we'll have pre-set up. And we're also going to have a covering over the clickers that make it so that they go down to a 2-button unit. So it's just yes or no. And it also says Town of Grafton on it. So I think it's going to be a lot easier than what we're used to. It certainly seems like simpler technology. So I'm looking forward to rolling that out. We'll be hopefully rolling all that out in October. So
How would it, if we had an overflow, presumably to the gym, which is, we've done it before.
yep. So this is a scalable system. So presumably, we would have to patch over to an RJ45 Ethernet connection in the gym and put up a second receiver.
Yeah, actually, I think if I remember what they told us, with their base station, one of the reasons I like the Meridia system is their base station has the capacity to handle 2,000 clickers. So one of the problems we had with our current system is when we expanded beyond 500 clickers, we had to go with a second base station.
Right.
And
So
until we figured out how to arrange the base stations so that they worked, we were having issues. But the other thing that Meridia told us was that actually this single base station has detachable antennas. So we could actually extend an antenna over into the cafeteria area or into the gym. So we wouldn't necessarily need to even get a second base station. It's just, it was kind of neat the way it could be, it can expand in ways that our existing system just couldn't, or would have been really clumsy. So
If it's a
we
detachable
talked about that
antenna-
on the call with them.
If it's a detachable antenna, how did they connect back up to the base station? Are they RJ45 back to the base station?
Yeah, the attachable, I think it would be a coax connection.
Coax connection? So you
Yeah.
just basically just have to have coax run to the other location that you're gonna have an antenna in. Okay.
Yeah, they indicated to us that that's, you can detach the antenna and just run coax. I did the picture of the base station shows the antennas plugged onto the base station with a coax, a BNC connector.
I'm not sure that just run coax across that run is a trivial project. I was hoping it would go over our RJ45. I guess that's a base station, an additional base station in that case. In any case, you figure out fairly close to town meeting that you have a problem.
Yeah, but I think we'll, the way the system is, I think we'll be able to pivot pretty quickly. Even like this town meeting coming up, I think we have 65 warrant articles. Because of the bylaw study committee and planning board, which ironically Dave's on both. So you connect the dots there. But we have, so we have a lot of articles, but I also don't know that they're necessarily articles that are gonna draw people out, right? This isn't the Holden Farms vote. Are you taking the iPad? Sorry, gentlemen. Okay, thanks. You know, we generally have a pretty good inkling of, you
Yep.
know, what people are gonna turn out for, so. But we also, our first meeting will have, representatives from Meridia there. And they'll help run that meeting with us and work out any kinks, and, you know, I have a hope that we'll spend some time also talking about some what ifs while they're there helping us set up. So what if we have to expand into the cafeteria? What if, you know, X, Y, and Z? Just from our past experiences, things that have happened or things that haven't necessarily gone well. So
Yeah,
think we're-
all in all, this system promises to be significantly a much better match for what we need for town meeting than the old system was. And yeah, I'm not going to have to write a 100-page book to explain how to use this new system.
there you go.
You gonna sell off the old system to somebody who doesn't need something as good?
We'll probably put it up on GovDeals or Municipid, and you know, when they ask us how it works, we'll say it works wonderfully.
Yep.
To get as
Tell us,
much business as possible. Yeah. So the other thing I thought was neat is that they said that they have 3 to 5 year battery life,
Oh.
which is good because I'm sick of changing batteries. And they also, interestingly enough, have a service where you just send them back your clickers and they will replace the batteries for a fee. And so we're looking into what that fee is, because
Yep.
If it's reasonable, I would much prefer to do that than sit at home watching television, changing batteries.
they can't tell you which clickers need new batteries, can they?
It does have a little LCD display on the front that I believe gives you the little battery indicator. If I remember correctly, Dave, watching that little
Yeah,
tutorial.
the old system would provide a low battery indication, not on the clicker itself necessarily, but you know, back to the base station, you could view all the clickers. You get low battery alerts from the clickers, but you know, it's kind of hard to tell when it says low battery. Well, how much battery do you have left? You
Right.
don't really know.
We had some that we were getting low battery image data on, and we had recently changed the batteries in those, so we figured we're talking 50%, and they didn't make it through the first like 3 or 4 votes. So, you know, then we just started changing all the batteries every time. At least in the first, say, 300 numbers that we knew had been given out, and then you know, that's a pain. So hopefully, you know, from what we saw, it was unanimous. All 4 of us were heading for Meridia. So I think, you know, I think we're in good shape.
I mean, you never really know how it's going to work until you actually try to use it. But based on my experience trying to figure out how to make the ARS Pro system work for the many different types of votes we take in town meeting, Meridia is going to be just a lot easier to operate.
Good. Well, people will appreciate it a while after they get confident.
Yeah.
System, it's not gone all that well. It was nice first time around, I think, when it, you know, worked.
Well, there was just 1 year, 2018, when our clicker system was not working well. It basically failed us at 2 consecutive town meetings, the second of which I was moderating for, and we just gave up on it about halfway through. It was clear it wasn't working, but that motivated me to to dig into it and figure out why it wasn't working. After that, it was working well until the most recent town meeting at which we attempted to use it, when the software just wasn't, it wouldn't stay up and running for reasons that, you know, I don't know, because, you know, William struggled with it for a while and just gave up, and none of us were motivated to dig in and try to figure out what was going wrong. I'm sure we could have worked that out eventually, but given
Well-
other reasons for migrating to a newer clicker system, it really wasn't worth the effort.
Yeah, and after our hardware then software failures at the last town meeting, it was time. So
I hope that this system has a good way to show the vote.
well, yes and no, I'd say. So none of them really do because they're not. There are ways to integrate that into PowerPoint, and I think Dave, when we were listening to the first one, first vendor there, OTI, they have a way to do it. The way I think we're going to do it is by buying a video switcher, a higher end video switcher, and then going back and forth between a computer running the PowerPoint and the computer that is tracking the vote.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there's
that's-
what's that, like Dave and I were really interested in that were never announced or not. The numbers were very interesting and no one knows what they were except Dave, and he told me.
Right.
Like the
Yeah, it
vote.
was right. The first year that we used the clicker system, the moderator was not announcing the vote counts. After that, pretty regularly, the moderator, when Ray was moderator, at least he always announced the vote counts every time. It's up to the moderator, but
Right. And so that was the other thing I was going to say is that we could use a video switcher, but that's at the discretion of the moderator, whether that's how she would like to do it. So,
But the issue is that when we're using PowerPoint to display information to the audience, what warrant articles, display presentations along with that, there's just no way to make that PowerPoint really play well with a clicker system. And it's far simpler to use, keep them independent, but to be able to switch the clicker video up onto the big screen, say during and after the vote. So you could, it's not very informative during the vote because you don't want to display the actual vote counts while voting is taking place. But once voting is completed, it's nice to display on the screen for the audience, well, here's the result. And with a good video switcher, that becomes easy. I think, some of you may remember, I don't know if we actually tried to use it during the meeting. We were playing around with it before the meeting. We had a simple, cheap video switcher, and it would take 5 to 10 seconds to switch the video because of HDMI sync. The lazy way to do a switcher. So we I think this back when Doug was the assistant town administrator, and we realized that just wasn't going to work. But if you can get it an essentially instant video switch, then that's just the easy way to handle displaying the vote count to the audience.
Yeah. The vote I'm thinking of is when we voted whether to make the planning board appointed instead of elected. Do you remember the vote, Will, Dave?
Yes.
It was something like, I don't know, 75% no, 80%,
Like that.
but the people in the hall, no one except you and I know that. I'm pretty sure Ray never kept, Ray wasn't real good on 2/3.
Yeah.
That'd
Right.
be
Yeah.
the other way.
Yeah. I know. I've seen moderators up there with a calculator trying to figure out the 2/3. And of course, the way I look at it was a really simple rule of thumb for determining whether you met the 2/3. But the Meridia system will do that. You
Yes.
tell it the quantum of vote, and it will tell you pass fail. No one has to do any calculations.
yep, pretty cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yep, no, I was quite favorably impressed by it.
Okay. Anything else?
So that's it on clickers. Anything else, Evan? Any other updates for us?
I don't
Any
think
question
so.
anybody has for Evan?
Is that Meridia system going to be in place for the fall town meeting? Or is it going to be more
That's the-
springtime?
Well, that's the goal is to make it for the October meeting. We have done all of our end of procurement, so hopefully that's a quick process. We actually don't have a delivery date yet, but we have completed the order. So that's I guess my best answer is that's our hope, but it's not guaranteed at this
Yeah,
point.
and it's a month away, so there's still. I mean, a month is actually not a whole lot of time in the procurement cycle, but sometimes it can be made to work.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape. It's all about whether they can deliver the system in time, the way that we've spec'd it and asked for it. So
Are
Yeah,
they-
and there's the services that would need to be scheduled too, I would imagine, right? Because it would be like a setup or a demo, whatever thing that they do.
yeah, they would come out and do the whole setup, and then this company's actually the companies, other companies do this too, but Meridia is kind of cool that there's towns that don't own anything, so they actually like rent it from Meridia, and Meridia comes out, runs the whole meeting, and and then leaves, which is nice. would be kind of a nice way to do it, but it's definitely more economical to own it. So
Oh, is that video switch part of the same order?
nope. No, they actually gave us a recommendation for what they've been using. And so that's just straight Amazon.
Curious how much.
I want to say it was sub $300.
Hmm.
It wasn't big money. You could find a lot of video switching technology has gotten a lot cheaper. So
Yeah, back in it was 2016 or 2017 when we did our experiment with the cheap video switch, and it just didn't work. At the time, to the extent that we looked at it at all, we were looking at something close to $1,000 for one that would work. But yeah, technology has changed since then.
Yep. So this one is, like I said, sub 300. It's actually got a remote control with it, so you don't switch it. It's not like an AB box anymore. You just push the button and there it goes. Push the button and it comes back. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. This will be a fun learning curve, and why not do it on the biggest town meeting warrant that Grafton's had in quite some time, if ever, I guess. So
I mean, the length of the warrant sounds daunting until you realize 41 of those articles are one warrant article for each article of the town bylaws.
right. So
And
let's
most
people
of the
go.
right, most of the bylaw changes are fairly trivial sorts of things, editorial corrections, minor wording updates, and it's just there's a lot of bulk. The count is high, but the substance isn't that bad.
Let's hope.
But any chance of doing the consent agenda on at least a lot of it?
We are going to take our direction, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the bylaw study committee on whether or not
Yes,
they
We've-
feel it appropriate to do any consent agendas. The rest of it, the outside of the bylaw study committee, there's really nothing on there that would warrant a consent agenda.
yeah,
I'm
we've
gonna
talked
come
a
up
little
and
bit about.
I'm gonna demand to talk to every single one of those. I'm gonna speak up to the microphone on every single one. I just want to have a conversation about them all.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get I got a microphone switcher too. So
Yeah, well, to help folks prepare for the town meeting, the bylaw committee is about to publish our committee report, in which will be contained the entire set of bylaws with all the changes highlighted. It's right now it's looking like 173 pages worth. But yeah, if you want to get a really good sense of what the committee has proposed and read it in full context with the changes neatly highlighted so you can see what the changes are, you can read through that. That's the warrant won't be quite so easy to read, but then we don't want a 173 page warrant if we can avoid it.
yeah,
I
no
want to wait for it to come out on the movies, I think.
kidding. I'll wait for the
And we're
theatrical
gonna
release.
right we're gonna ask Evan to print a copy of that report and mail it to every voter.
Okay,
Is that what we're doing
Evan's
with all
gonna
the trees?
say, yeah, right.
Is that what we did with all the trees on Institute Road?
yep, turned them all in the paper, sent them out.
No,
Oh.
there's plenty of trees from George Hill Road soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I think I think we've probably
beaten it to
dealt
death.
with what we need to deal with from Evan for the committee, IT committee.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else for Evan, anybody?
No, is the fiber moved to new poles on Main Street, or is it not yet moved?
So the short answer to that, Bob, is I don't know.
Yeah.
I got I think you sent me an email Monday-ish. And I just haven't gotten to, get that question answered yet. So, but I will this week.
I really wonder because they had to move poles out of the way to build the road. I haven't been down
Yeah.
there.
So
Oh.
I've been down there. The poles are moved. I'm guessing that that's an open order that just didn't get closed in somebody's system. Because there are no poles left in the roadway. And most of those poles got moved, feet. They wouldn't be double poles where they're just waiting for us to take off our infrastructure. So I'm gonna, if I had to bet, I would say that's not a viable, or a valid concern at this point, but I haven't, followed up on it yet.
Just wondering.
Yep.
They go down there, people keep, actually, I haven't seen complaints for several days now. I
Don't
guess.
say that out loud, Bob. Don't say that out loud. I've gotten plenty of complaints.
Well, but
Trust me.
they finished before school started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, they still had some minor items out there, but they're, it's one of those things where you get it. People are frustrated. It's been 2 years. It's a lot of noise and dust and aggravation, but the final outcome is it looks nice. You go down there, it's nicely done. So,
That intersection will never be safe. The one next to the air station.
right, exactly. We're gonna make it safer.
I remember whatever was the 25% or whatever the presentation was.
Yeah.
Even looking at that myself and looking for what can we do, and that's about all you can do. And
Yep. Unless you want to start doing something with eminent domain, that's how it's gonna be. So, and everybody hates that too. So,
even
Sure.
that, and easy,
Yeah.
because of how things are laid out. Well,
Yeah. All right. So if there's nothing else for me, I will jump off.
Go rejoin your family there, Evan.
Yep, Berenstain Bears tonight, so I gotta go.
Ah,
Gotta go get reading.
yep.
All right. Have
That's
a
a
great
far better thing to do than meet with an old IT committee.
Thank you for having me as always. I hope
you, Evan.
CB was helpful, and we'll be back in touch soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Evan.
good night, Evan. And for the committee, the last agenda item we have is, well, the next agenda, the next agenda item we have is review and approve previous meeting minutes.
approval
Which,
with any notes that we discuss.
Second,
moved and seconded that the minutes of the previous meeting be approved with any amendments that we might discuss as part of discussing said motion. So is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we will take a vote. Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
Carol votes aye.
Mr. Hassinger, and Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. On the agenda, as always, is a possible executive session. We do not have any topics that require discussion under executive session, so we'll move past that agenda item to the final agenda item, which is adjournment.
We adjourn.
Second,
Moved and seconded that we be adjourned. Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
Carol's eye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger. Think I saw Bob's mouth move saying aye.
I said aye and I'm not muted.
Oh. Somehow your mic didn't quite pick it up, or my computer didn't play the sound to me, and
Are you-
Lord only knows. Anyway, I vote aye as well, so motion carried unanimously. We are adjourned.